Hey, Shalom, Akim Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Machakudash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and also teaching this truth. And much peace, love, and salutation to the elect, beginning with the 144,000, all the way down to the large multitude that believes and who the Lord will deliver in these last days. To you all I say Shalom. I'm the brother Tazamah from the Great Millstone Dallas camp, coming back today with another lesson. And I pray this lesson will be edifying to the elect. And I want to do a lesson on this article that I have here on the screen. This is from endoftheamericandream.com. All right. And the title of this article reads, it says, the WHO got their new P-Dem treaty just in time for the great pestilences that are rapidly approaching. All right. Let's read that again. The WHO. And if you don't know what the WHO is, all right, it's an acronym for the World Health O. All right. Got their new P-Dem treaty just in time for the great pestilences that are rapidly approaching. All right. And, we remember what was going on during the time, during the time of 2020. All right. Whenever the sticky, the crown Vicky, or rather say, came on the scene and things got shut down, businesses got shut down, lockdowns took place. And then, of course, ultimately they forced the JAB, upon these individuals so that they could keep their jobs and, be able to quote unquote function in society. But now, the end result of those individuals who, took that JAB are now experiencing health complications. You got a lot of people who are, who are being unalived from it due to clots in their blood. And people willingly, stuck their arms out and took it. You even had Israelite camps that that promoted to get it. So these things that we seen take place and happen, these are just precursors to what Esau, Edom, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of, plans on doing. That was nothing more than just a rehearsal, for lack of better words, as the scripture says in the book of Micah, the 2nd chapter. Before the morning is light, they practice it. All right, this is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity." All right, that pretty much devise wickedness. Okay, it says, and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, because they have the power to do so. They'll pass these laws and they'll write these particular treaties, way in advance before the time, because they already have an agenda of what they plan on doing. And this next set of lockdowns and things of that nature that's getting ready to come is about to be far worse than what we experienced in 2020. The draconian laws that are getting ready to be passed and the measures that are getting ready to be come down the pipe is going to be far worse. Okay, it says, in secret labs all over the planet, researchers are playing around with the deadliest diseases that humanity has ever known. And most of these diseases, if you will, are they're patented and they're created. You see. So when it comes down to Esau and his sword, it goes beyond the gun. It goes beyond, the missile technology, which, is a major portion of the sword that was given unto Esau by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It even goes into the fact of biological warfare taking place, which we've seen that, we witness biological warfare when it comes down to, the foods that we eat. The stuff that's being sprayed in the air, if you can catch my drift, the stuff, air quotes, that's in the water, all the different toxins and metals and things of that nature that our bodies are exposed to on a day-to-day basis. These things are created. Okay, let's get a precept on that real quick. Let's get Psalm 64. All right, this is Psalm 64. Verse 5, it says, they encourage themselves in an evil matter. Okay, they encourage themselves in an evil plan. All right, it says they commune of laying snares privily. See? And that's why you have these particular you have these particular meetings, if you will, in Davos, Switzerland. You have all these particular meetings, the Geneva conferences and things of that nature. Why do they have these meetings? Because they're devising up wicked plans. You see, they commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? You see, because all these things are done in darkness and in secrecy. But here it is, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. And they feel as if they're not being seen, but they're being watched. You see, it says they search out iniquities. And once again, iniquities is what? Wickedness. They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. You see, so they really put a lot of time and money and effort into these plans. You see, it says both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart, the mind, is deep. Let's get that word deep real quick here. All right, that word deep is imak. All right, it says deep, mysterious, depths, deep, unsearchable. All right, and it says unsearchable. You see, and that's why the scripture says that that he's wiser than Daniel. There's nothing that can hide from him. And that's talking about in the spirit, it's talking about Esau, man. You see, it says in some cases, back in the article, in some cases the goal is to make those diseases even more deadlier and even easier to spread. You see, and that's exactly what they're doing. All these particular instances of the BIRD flu, and the H1N1, and as I said earlier, the Crown Vicky, polio and measles and things of that nature. All those things are really just all those diseases, if you will, are really just fabrications that was created. You see, and they work to make these things more stronger, to spread even more. But it's really, it's really the sword of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man, because this next set, if you will, of pestilences and diseases, is gonna far exceed anything that we've seen. You see, that's why it's important to fear Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. Let me actually get a precept on that. I think it's Exodus 15. Let me just double check. Yeah, Exodus chapter 15. All right, remember, because the scripture says that the Lord will bring plagues upon Egypt as in the days of old, or as before, in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. So this is Exodus 15, verse 26. It says, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yahweh thy power, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. And the Lord brought all kinds of plagues upon the Egyptians, man. But the Lord is saying, if you're obedient, okay, I'm not going to bring these diseases upon you. It says, for I am Yahweh that healeth thee. You see, because you're going to have a lot of people that's just going to be dropping dead by the droves. Far greater than anything that we've seen. Remember in Psalm 91, all right, it tells you. Let's get that. In Psalm 91, it tells you that 1,000 shall fall at thy right hand, 110,000 at thy left. So, let me just get it real quick. I don't want to butcher it. This is Psalm 91, verse 5. It says, thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. And that arrow that flieth by day is talking about the missiles. Okay, it says, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness. See, because one thing about a disease is that you can't see it. You can't see when somebody, you can see if somebody's sick based upon how they look. That you may see them sneezing and coughing, and they sound all congestion and things of that nature. But if somebody could have symptoms and you may not, and they could be in the early symptom stages, and you may not know. Whereas, somebody could touch a handle, or somebody could just cough, and it spreads rapidly. That's a pestilence that walks in darkness, and you can't see it. So it says, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness. It says, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. And that destruction that wastes at noonday, all right, is talking about the ICBM, okay, thermonuclear missiles, okay, that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to bring upon Babylon the Great. Verse 7, it says, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand. You see, that's symbolic of just a lot of death. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. It's not going to come near the elect. See, because even with these diseases and pestilences, it's going to come what? It's going to come more draconian laws. It's going to become to be more tighter. You see, which that's what they want. They want to bring forth order out of chaos. That's what these elites want. Okay. It says if a T organization or one of our enemies really wanted to create complete and utter chaos in our society, boom, there it is right there. And it's more so the enemy that's going to be within. I'll keep it like that. Releasing a weaponized disease in a heavily populated area will be one of the easiest ways to do that. Once again, it will be the enemy from within. I'm saying it like that for a reason. A bomb could kill hundreds or even thousands of people, but a highly infectious pestilence could spread like wildfire all over the country and potentially kill millions of Americans. You see? Let me get another precept. Jeremiah 16:1. Actually, verse 4 is the point. Start of verse 3. For thus saith Yahweh concerning the sons and concerning the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bear them, and concerning their fathers that begat them in this land. And you can spiritually liken this unto Babylon the Great. You know, all these Pookies and Ray Rays and Big Shirleys and Big Marias, you know, and their fathers, you know, and these children that are born. Okay, hey, because hey, man, the Lord is rough, man. You know, people can hear this and be like, oh, the Lord he will kill pregnant women, he'll kill women and children. Yes, the Lord will kill. Well, what do you think would happen during the time of the flood? It was, you know, men, women, and children that was dying in Egypt. Okay, remember the scripture says, slay utterly old and young, maids and little children. In Ezekiel 9. You have children that are born that are created to be destroyed. And that's just the facts, right? It says they shall die of grievous deaths. Okay? And when you get this word grievous death, this word grievous is Thachalayim. All right? Thachalayim. Yum makes it plural, right? It says diseases. You see that the grievous deaths are talking about what? Diseases. Chala is the root. To suffer, to be sick, to be diseased. They shall die of grievous deaths. You see? It says they shall not be lamented. And to be lamented is pretty much to be mourned over, right? Neither shall they be buried. And that goes to show you right there how much death is coming. Whereas it's going to be so much that they're not even going to be buried. The typical way for somebody to go out nowadays is for them to be buried, in a burial site. You have individuals who could be cremated, or whatever the case may be, but the typical way is to go back to the earth as it's written, But it's going to be so much death that they're not going to have time to bury people. It's going to take too much time. You see? And that's going to bring forth more disease. Dead bodies just laying out. That's going to cause forth for more diseases to come about. It says, but they shall be as dung upon the face of the earth. And what is and dung upon the face of the earth is what? Shit. Just like if you walking outside and you just see some dung in the grass, you ain't worried about picking it up. Or somebody forgot to pick up, this dog's refuse. No, you're not worried about that. You pretty much walk over it, man. It says, and they shall be consumed by the sword and by famine. You see, all these things are going to be simultaneously happening at the same time, which is going to also make people beg for the MOTB. You see, because they're gonna market the MOTB as the source of salvation. Or if you get sick, you could take this chip. Whereas it'll be able to detect sickness before it even comes. Or if anybody's around you that's sick, to make sure you avoid them. You want to be able to eat during these times of these lockdowns and you have a ration. You have to get this chip, and we clearly see that's what they're aiming to. It says, and their carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth. Letting you know that they're not going to be buried and it's going to be a lot of death. All right. It says, if you believe that the Iranians, the North Koreans, the Russians, the Chinese, and radical Islamic T groups all over the globe would never do such a thing because they are such decent people, you have a much higher view of humanity than I do. All right. And once again, this is coming from a perspective of somebody who, knows what's going on, but they ultimately think that Babylon can be healed, which Babylon is America. So he's writing to a degree that this is happening, but this could be fixed, right? It says, of course, it wouldn't necessarily take a large organization to pull off such an attack. It says these days, just a handful of people could cook something up and release it into our society if they knew what they were doing. It says we have seen extraordinary advancements in the field of biotechnology over the past several decades, and that lines up with the scripture that that knowledge would increase in the last days. See, it says experiments that once took enormous resources to pull off can now be conducted by a group of college kids working in a basement. And that's what they like to always show forth and say too. Everybody's social security card, everybody's social security number was somehow hacked by Ned in the basement. This nigga got a dingy ass sweater on with stains all up on it. Open pizza box in his basement. No, man, that's not happening. Okay, ain't nobody in their basement hacking everybody's social security number. That's not taking place. All right. Remember, man, we're dealing with the enemy within. It says we are far more vulnerable than most people realize, and it's just a matter of time before the next killer P-Dem erupts. It says on 2 days ago, the WHO adopted a P-Dem agreement that is supposed to help it fight future P-Dems. Future P-Dems. You see? So it says that these are things for the future. Remember what my man BG said. If matter of fact, let me get it real quick. Hold on. Now I just want to say that this is fair use. I'm not using this clip for monetary gain. This is all free use in public. This is from TED Talk. I want to say it is. Yep, this is from TED Talk. This is all fair use. All right. Take a listen. This is what the so-called leaders of today are saying. The technocrats and the philanthropists, what they're saying today. Let's take a listen.
Look, first we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But
we could lower that by 10 or 15% with new JABs, right? And science, if you will. This is their science. He said literally he gave an equation on how to lower population, and that's what these elites want to do. These elite, that's exactly what they want to do. They want to lower the population. Remember the Georgia Guidestones. What the Georgia Guidestones say? Reduce population to 500 million. So in order for them to reduce the population to 500 million, they have to do a lot of 187s. I'll just put it like that. Okay. And remember, they do these things in secrecy, man, and they already have these things written up. The scripture says, "Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that write grievousness." It's also written in Psalm 94:20. It says, "He frameth mischief by law." You see, it says after 3 years of intensive negotiations, the WHO on Tuesday adopted the world's first agreement on how to cooperate and respond to future P-Dems without the support of the United States. So this is outside of the United States jurisdiction. The agreement was overwhelmingly passed in a vote of the WHO, the World Health Assembly, an annual gathering of WHO member state delegations. 124 votes in favor, 11 abstentions, and no objections. Leaders of member states held the accords, including Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who called it a shared commitment to ensuring that no one is left behind. So pretty much this is going to be a world thing. That's going to be operated through the WHO. We are being told that this new P-Dem agreement will result in greater international coordination and surveillance. How are they going to do that? They're going to do that via AI. And you already see this happening right now. According to the AFP report, the agreement aims to better detect. Did I just not mention this? Aim to better detect and combat P-Dems by focusing on greater international coordination and surveillance and more equitable access to, you see the word there, and treatments. Now remember, they just started this whole Operation Stargate ordeal where they can pretty much make JABs specifically made for you. You see? Quickly, and it cuts the time down more than half. You see? It says that's just great. We're going to get more international coordination and more surveillance now. And the ultimate form of surveillance of what they want to do is that MOTB. He is wiser than Daniel. There's nothing that there's nothing that you can hide. So precisely, who is going to be in charge of implementing specific measures to ensure that there will be greater international coordination and surveillance in the future? Needless to say, it will be the WHO. This is a power grab by the WHO, and WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom, and whatever the hell that says, just issued a statement that expresses how thrilled he is about this. Let's see if I could just play the statement real quick. Doesn't look like it. Look at this guy. This is the guy that said he's insane. You can tell he's absolutely crazy. Yeah, it's not a video. I thought maybe there would be a video, but it's all good. Let's go back here. It says, the world is safer today thanks to leadership, collaboration, and commitment to our member states to adopt the historic WHO P-Dem agreement. The agreement is a victory for public health, science, and multilateral action. It will ensure we, collectively, can better protect the world from future P-Dem threats. See, it's always the future of a P-Dem is going to be in the future. You see, so they already have it set in their minds what they're getting ready to do. You see, and we've been saying this, beginning with our apostles on down. We've been saying this, man. Okay, when the lights go down, when the lights shut out in America, man, it's not gonna be, glitz and glamour no more. It ain't gonna be no more of this dystopian world that people live in. You know, this ignorance is bliss society. Everything gonna be laid out in front of you. You see? Let's see. Speaking out. Yeah, and Robert F. Kennedy he's a plant too. Talking about the BRD flu. So our nation. Yep, and there shall be pestilences, diverse earthquakes in diverse places. He's quoting Matthew 24 and Luke 21. And this is what Yahweh Shai mentioned, that these things would happen before he returns. You see? And we're already seeing that take place. Yep, in fact, Revelation 6 and 8 tells us that a fourth part of the global population will die during the seal judgments alone. It says, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, which the fourth part of the earth is talking about America, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. See? And that's what's coming. The phrase with death is actually translated as with pestilence or by pestilence in a number of English translations. Let's actually take a look at that. Revelation 6 and 8. Let's get that word death in the Greek. And with death. Yep, and death is thanatos. Let's see if it really says pestilence here. I want to take a look at the Greek word and see. To be given over to death, to the peril of death, death stroke. Let's go down here. Let's see this one more time. He and his partner. To die, to be dead, to be spiritually dead. Let's see what the NLT says. Yep. It says these two were given authority over 1/4 of the earth to kill with the sword and famine and disease and wild animals. You see that? With disease and with wild animals, man. Because, hey, even the wild animals are going to be turned out their places like the scriptures say too. You see? And this is the time that we're coming into, man. And it's pretty much here. So, I just wanted to do a quick lesson on this. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect. Once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruchakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that's still teaching this truth. Much peace, love, and salutation to the elect. Until next time, Lord willing, I say shalom.